Bienvenidos a la Deuces Wild Daily Hustle. Soy Enrique Byrnes y presidente de su mejor cerveza. No abate por No Filter Network. Will the Thrill Clark not with us today? He was with us on Tuesday, and once again, we had all sorts of controversy coming out of that show, still making headlines nationally, not necessarily for, I think, the reasons we would like, which would be the fact that we think this is the number one most authentic, kick-ass baseball podcast on the market. But regardless, we love our boy Thrill and our guy Miguelito Sandieguito, who is also not with us today. But we come on here each and every single morning. We come on here and we properly salute our boys. Yes, 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 yes. Woo! Remember this, folks. When we are juiceful, we are useful. And when we are juiceless, we are fucking useless. A very pleasant, I'd say good morning, but it's actually afternoon to you on the 11th day of July. It's 7-11 today, 2025. So, as I mentioned, the Will thing. So, Will, look, he told a guy a story, right? One of the Red Sox announcers, who then shared it on, I believe it was a radio station. And then they ran with that story. It was all about the Rafael Devers thing. Thrill clearly was upset about it, made no qualms about letting his feelings be known. And that is really kind of what's making circulation at this point. And yes, John Davis, a great day for a fucking Slurpee. Good morning to you. Collierville, Tennessee. How about John Emmanuel Ramos Henderson from Makati City International once again, motherfuckers? All right, the Daily Hustle quote of the day. People may doubt what we say, but they can't ever doubt what we do. Daily Hustle translation. Forgive me because I've told this story before in the Daily Hustle, but it's definitely one worth revisiting. I had a teammate that used to like to tell me how hard he played. Burnsy, I'm just like you, we play hard. I typically just nodded my head in agreement, but always wondered why he felt so compelled to tell me and everyone else who would listen how hard he played the game. For the most part, this guy did play the game the right way, and he was a very good player. Then, one day, with the bases loaded, there's a tough ball that was hit, and this player made a decent effort for it, but he missed it. Yet, instead of busting his ass to retrieve the ball, he jogged after it, and the merry-go-round on the bases ensued. A few weeks later, in a social setting, this same player once again brought up the fact that he played hard, and I finally lost my shit. Look here, dude. You spend all this time telling people how hard you play. Then we have to watch you jog after a ball you missed with the bases juiced. Nobody can hear what you are saying because we are all too busy watching what the fuck you are doing. Hustle does not take plays off. To his credit, he took accountability and went on to hustle his way, most of the time at least, to a very nice career. Bottom line, this world is filled with cynics, and people will always doubt what we say. But there is not a credible human being who will ever be able to doubt what we do. Let this be a subtle reminder to make sure our actions are reflecting the words we wish to speak. EB. Okay, so I have told this story before. It's one I like going back to. Not to, I don't know, bag on this player by any means. No, it's just, even if I was that guy, I would almost appreciate getting called out in that moment because we can't talk the talk if we're not walking the fucking walk. And like I mentioned, this guy really did play the game the right way almost every single time he took the field. There were a few occasions, not only this one, a couple other ones where I would notice things just because of the fact that he tried to tell me how hard he played all the time. I'm not sure if I ever told anybody I played hard. It was one of those things I just did. And this was like literally hung up. And of course, if you ask me, what I thought one of my strengths was when I played baseball, I would just say my effort, right? I'm going to give you everything I have on every single play. But at the same time, I don't feel compelled to try to tell anybody how hard I played or how tough I am, right? It's the guy who tries to tell you how tough he is always the one that is fucking insecure. And I think that was the case in this situation. I just think that I do like the positive self-talk where this guy always tried to convince himself that he was playing hard, but I also felt probably because there were some lackadaisical moments on the baseball field that he felt very insecure with the fact that he probably even questioned himself, hey, am I giving it my all the time? So maybe this was a way for him to hold himself accountable too, and give him credit, because when I unleashed on him like this, and I don't remember what the exact words, obviously, I try to recount it as most accurately as possible, but I remember getting this sort of blank stare from him, and he didn't immediately come back and say anything. He just got really quiet and kind of like that fake laughing, like, and then I think it set in. And I don't know if it was a few days later, a few weeks later, but he came up to me and he's like, yo, man, like, I got you. And I said, good. And I rooted for this kid. I wanted him to do well. Because he was a good player. And for every good player, and good person too, deep down, but I think for every good player and every good person, look, baseball's better when these guys do play the game the right way. I'll never forget when Carl Keel pulled me aside, and he was a long time just baseball lifer and every, like, he managed in the big leagues, managed for, I think it was the Expos for a short period of time. But he was the Oakland A's mental strength coach. And, he was his whole thing, he wrote The Mental Game of Baseball, and his whole thing was really just trying to get the most out of each and every one of the players, giving us tools to do so. And so after I had struggled in 2005, he called me up and he's like, yo, Burnsy. He goes, let's have lunch. So went to lunch with Carl, and he's like, baseball's better when you're playing better. How do we get you there? And I took that to heart. I thought it was one of the coolest things someone said. And I don't think it's much different, say, for this guy, where this guy had all this potential and baseball was better when this guy was not only playing better, but playing the game the fucking right way. But I think each and every one of us has to continue to go back and, like I said, hold ourselves accountable. Okay. MLB scores from yesterday. This was Thursday, July 10th. Baltimore sweeps a doubleheader at home against the New York Mets. The Mets continue to reel. It's been a rough go as of late for them. They're 53-40, though. The Orioles now 42-50, so slowly climbing back towards that 500 mark. And I can't really take any team serious until they get there, but they are definitely on their way up. PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong, a couple homers. He's got 25 homers and 25 steals now, as the Cubs beat the Twinkies 8-1. The Cubs 55-38. The Twins fall 3 games below 500, 45-48. Pete Crow Armstrong on pace for a 40-40 fucking season. This is insane. He's kind of the same mold as a Corbin Carroll. Electric power, electric speed, great in the outfield. A lot of people say PCA might be the best center fielder that's come around in decades. So just an awesome talent and a guy we certainly will be able to celebrate during the All-Star festivities coming up here in Atlanta. The Tampa Bay Rays go down to the Boston Red Sox, 4-3. Red Sox have won 7 in a row. They're on fire. St. Louis, 8-1 winners. Miles Michaelis and Fuego against the Nationals. The A's last night, 5-4 winners in extras, I believe. Yep, final in 11 innings. I watched the end of that one. It was Tyler Soderstrom with the walk-off knock for the Athletics. The OU, if you guys have been paying attention at all, in that ballpark, I'd love to see what the OU record is, because it seems like the under has probably hit like 3 or 4 times. Every other fucking game has gone over. I don't know what the OU was, but now this OU's creeping up to 10, 11 every single night. Just 9 runs scored last night in that contest. It was the Texas Rangers, 11-4 winners in Anaheim. The San Diego Padres, 4-3 winners over the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Pods are 50-43. The D-backs 46 and 48. Manny Machado with a homer in that one. The White Sox in Cleveland were postponed. And then the game of the day, the instant classic. I don't watch a ton of baseball. I was fortunate enough to be able to catch the last few innings of this one. The New York Yankees were getting no hit by Woo of the Seattle Mariners. They were in the 8th inning. I believe it was Jazz Chisholm who got the base hit to break up the no-no in the bottom of the 8th inning. But then New York continued to pile on. It was Giancarlo Stanton with a 2-run homer. And then I believe Austin Wells, a big knock to tie it up. Well, they end up winning this game in extra innings. Aaron Judge sacrificed fly, and you had Anthony Volpe at third base, who had one of the sickest slides I've ever seen to win a game. He was going to be out, and it really wasn't going to be that close, where he comes in like this, and he's diving head first, and he pulls this hand back, and then this one reaches around. So basically, it's a variation of swim moves. Swim moves sort of same thing, where you go here. There's all different sorts of swim moves that you could pull off. This one was very subtle, very smooth. The Yankees win. Did a No Filter Network video on this last night. Look, when I do these videos, they're typically for a couple reasons. Either something's really funny or something's really fucking good. And I thought this one was just really good. This was a slide that needed to be celebrated. And I was watching the postgame. Excuse me. And some of that beet juice. Incredible. Anyhow, I was watching the postgame, and they weren't talking about the slide. They were talking about Aaron Judge comes through again and all this other bullshit. I'm like, what the fuck are wrong with you people? This slide is what won the Yankees the game, amongst other things. But any other base runner at third base, and he's not scoring. So these are the little things that win baseball games. The jump, just even from third base to get off at the exact time the center fielder is catching that ball. Just awesome. Okay. Something else that was happening in this game that really kind of prompted this daily hustle here. The Yankees were relaying signs from second base in that last inning. And it was fucking blatant. As blatant as I've ever seen at any level, where when it was a slider, they looked like jumping jacks at second base relaying the signs. And there's a lot of arguments here, one way or another. And you could say, well, if you don't want them relaying signs, don't give the signs away. And then the next question becomes, well, how were they giving the signs away? Obviously, Munoz had a huge tell whether it was flaring his glove, whatever it was. But what's interesting is that the tell was actually coming from the first base coach. He was the one who was able to read what Munoz was doing before he delivered the pitch. You then had the base runners looking at the first base coach. Boom, he would flash a sign of when a slider's coming. They would let the hitter know, and so on. It certainly allowed them to come back in this game and eventually win it. It, without a shadow of a doubt, fucking helped them. Well, obviously, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, why isn't Seattle doing something about it? Well, the big dumper, Cal Raleigh, went out to talk to his pitcher, and I don't know if they changed something up or what happened, but there was no coach, no manager, no meeting amongst all the infielders on the mound to discuss what was happening. Really made me scratch my head. So then he went back out there and this shit continued. So looking at this and looking back upon it, what would have I done if I were the manager of the Seattle Mariners, or if I were Cal Raleigh, or if I were Munoz? Look, number one, you got to make sure that first base coach stays in the fucking box. They had several shots of him creeping all the way up on the line, and I don't know what he was looking for. Like I said, if Munoz is facing this way, coming out of the stretch, a lot of times it might be a flare with an elbow. It might be glove position. He might have been able to see grip somehow, whatever it was. But I will tell you that you got to make sure that motherfucker is in the box. So, again, as a manager, as a catcher, someone on the field, and you know where they're looking before they're relaying the signs, you got to do something about that. Okay. Number two here, you got to let them know, let the Yankees know that you know exactly what the fuck is happening. And there's a couple ways to do that. Number one, you got to start talking shit. Yo, motherfucker, you want me to tell you what's coming? Yeah. You better quit stealing our signs. You make a really, really big deal out of it. The second way to let them know that you know that they're stealing the signs is to throw one at a fucker's ear hole. And that's a little old school, so maybe you don't have to go with the ear, but I certainly would aim for the ribs. And then it becomes, hey, look, you want to steal our signs? That's gamesmanship. That's part of the game. I get it. But guess what else is part of the game? The fucking beanball. So if you want to, hey, go ahead. But guess what? The next time your ass gets in the box, or you just throw it at the hitter right then and there. What's interesting is that tonight they are not playing again. So you wonder if the Yankees had that in mind, because surely, I mean, I'm talking first pitch of the game. If I were the Mariners, I went back and revisited all the shit that happened, I would put a ball going at that leadoff hitter's direction just to let them know, yeah, that's not acceptable. We're not okay with that. So lastly here, with the entire thing, you got to make the fucking adjustment. So if you're obviously giving this pitch away somehow, some way, you got to do something different. That's why you guys remember Ryan Dempster was doing this shit, right? Boom, 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 whatever. And Demp talks about it all the time. He was scared about his split grip, where when he went to dig in, it flare up. And so he just kept going like this just to fuck with the hitters so they wouldn't be able to go ahead and pick that sign off. So that's on Munoz. That's on the Mariners. That's on Cal Raleigh. That's on the entire coaching staff there. But incredible baseball game. I loved all the drama of it. I'll say this. They relay signs in youth baseball all the time. And the first time we ever played the East Cobb Astros back in the day, our kids were given, one sign. It's 10, 11U baseball, fastball, curveball. Well, they're out there at second base doing the same sort of shit, like curveball. And I had to go out, and I'm like, look, guys, we're giving one sign. Like, what do we do? Because we had taught the kids better. We taught them, you got to give multiple signs. And then I did say something to the kid. And, of course, I got reprimanded because you're not supposed to talk to the other team's kids. I said, yo, bro, I get it. It's part of the game, trying to relay signs, everything else. I said, I just wanted to caution you, though. I said, as you guys move up levels, you probably want to be careful doing that. So, and that's it. It wasn't like I'm going to, whatever. But look, that's the game. I totally understand. But the beanball is also part of the game, too. It has been, and it always will be. So, I was watching it. Brian Kinney and the boys at MLB Network talk about this on MLB Now. Just still one of the greatest shows on television. And BK was saying something along the lines of like, hey, no one really needs to get domed for this or that. And I think it was Yonder Alonso's like, yeah, I don't, probably not. But I'm going to disagree. When you're that blatant about it, I would have fucking done something right then and there. And sometimes making a statement like that is even, I won't say more important than winning a game, but you ain't going to be no one's doormat, right? You don't want to let any, just take advantage of us. Fuck that. You got to stand up for yourself. So that's where this whole thing comes into play. Okay, tonight, the Giants and Dodgers go at it. This is going to be a fantastic series, or it should be. Dustin May against Webb tonight. It's Ohtani against Roop tomorrow, and then Yamamoto against Ray. This is the Giants' opportunity. They're 5 back. Dodgers have lost 6 in a row. They have been reeling. You're not going to get Ohtani for a ton of innings. I like the matchup tonight. I like the matchup on Sunday. Both of those are in the Giants' favor. Saturday, you got to battle to see what you can do. But if the Giants are able to take 2 or 3 from the Dodgers here, look out. This puts them right back in contention. I guess they'd still be 4 out. But I do feel like it's a statement series for the Gigantes. You got the Dodgers at home. There's going to be a ton of emotion, everything flying. If they're able to pull off the sweep, that's something different. That's all of a sudden like, holy shit, Dodgers, that means they would have lost 9 in a row if you get to that point. So really look the fuck out. All right, top 20 jersey sales. This list just came out. And not surprising, you guys can probably guess who's on top at number 1. But let's work backwards for fun's sake here. Number 20, Clayton Kershaw. Number 19, Tarek Skubal. Best pitcher in baseball right now, sitting at 19. That's good, though. People are starting to actually recognize the Tigers. How about number 18, PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong, on pace for that 40-40 season. Number 17, Jung-Hoo Lee. Number 16, Pete Alonso. Number 15, Ellie De La Cruz. Number 14, Vladimir Guerrero. Always look out for the international players, right? The Canadians are the guys who play in Canada. That's always going to be a hot ticket item, at least with their best player. He's the only Blue Jay on the list, but he's sitting there at 14. And then, of course, Jung-Hoo Lee, and amongst others here as we get into them, also on this list, Corbin Carroll. This surprises me a little bit because there's just not that many Diamondbacks fans, like diehard Diamondbacks fans, I feel like. So that's awesome to see Carroll on that list at number 13. Jarren Duran at number 12. Ronald Acuna Jr. at 11. That doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, it's just a huge fan base the Braves have. Bryce Harper, he's a fucking superstar. He's at number 10. Then we get into Fernando Tatis Jr. at number 9. Jose Altuve at number 8. Rafael Devers at 7. Really Really? That fucking shocks me. I also don't believe it. Maybe they're working off of the Red Sox sales and then add into Giant sales because all of a sudden he gets traded over. I'd love to see the metrics on this, but I have a feeling that's going to fall fast. Number 6, Juan Soto of the Mets, of course. Number 5, Francisco Lindor. Number 4, Mookie Betts. Number 3, Freddie Freeman. So Dodgers just dominating this list. Number 2, Aaron Judge, and then drum roll, please. Shohei Ohtani at number 1. So it's 1, 2, 3. Let's see here. 4 Dodgers on the list. Just 1 Yankee. You got a few Mets because you got Alonso, Lindor, as well as Juan Soto. So, anyhow, what that means, I don't know, nor do I really care. But again, like I said, I think it's pretty cool to see Corbin Carroll on that list. Okay, a couple other things that I wanted to get into. There's an awesome article in the Los Angeles Times titled "Like Father, Like Son: Why So Many MLB Draft Prospects Follow in Dad's Footsteps." So, look, this is pretty fucking easy, and I can tell you exactly why without having to read the article. When you have a father that went through it and took a path and his path to the major leagues and then spent an expanded amount of time there, with all of that becomes this huge teaching platform, right? And you learn a lot. You learn a lot, say, not only about the path that you took as a big leaguer to get there, but you learn about others. And I could tell you that I don't think there is one way to do it. I don't think there is one way to coach it, to parent it, or even to play it to get to the big leagues. I do think, though, going through this as a child of parents that never played baseball in their entire lives, growing up in a small town that never produced a major leaguer, going to a high school, which was a great athletic high school, but had never produced a major leaguer, and then going to UCLA, which obviously had produced a ton of major leaguers, and then getting into the minor league farm system with the A's, and then making my way up. My path was my path, and it doesn't have to be whether it's my kids or someone else's kids. Like, their path's going to be totally different, but there's some real, I don't know what you want to call it, like constants that are there in every single big leaguer story. And the number one thing is that you got to be obsessed. You got to fucking love it. And this is one of those things where, you know, you're not just showing up at the ballpark because, quote unquote, that's your job. You're showing up at the ballpark hungry, wanting to maximize your talents, wanting to get better. You're studying film. You're studying your own swing. You're defensively doing whatever it takes to become a great defensive player and help your team any way possible. You're obsessed with the details, the base running, the leads, the jumps, the fight for the inches is real. This is all the shit that will make you a big leaguer. Well, when you play in the big leagues, you learn this. And you then can pass that on to, say, your own child or other kids that you coach. Obviously, I think genetically, you could say big leaguers' kids will have an advantage, but they're not always the best athletes, right? Like Michael Jordan's kids weren't the best basketball players. It's more a mentality that needs to be set, and then it's basically up to the kid. I think Matt Holliday has done this as well, if not better, than any father/coach in the history of the game. Now, does it mean that Jackson Holliday is going to be a Hall of Famer? No, not at all. Does it mean that Ethan Holliday, who potentially could be the number one pick of the draft is going to be a Hall of Famer? Fuck no. Ideally, we like to think Ethan's going to be a high draft pick, potentially 1-1 here coming up, have a great long major league career. But all of that is not up to Matt, right? It becomes up to the kid. And I remember Matt Holliday talking about this. And he said, Jackson became a number one pick when he decided he wanted to go to work. And it makes me think a little bit because not every one of these kids, especially these kids that are so fucking gifted, want to put in the work. But I think there's always this eye-opening experience that they have. Now, Jackson Holliday was a top 100 prospect, but I think it was kind of right about that, I don't know, call it 50 or 100 range going into his senior year. And then he hit the weight room, really focused on building his swing, went out, hit 700 in high school, performed at all the showcases, and became the number one pick. But Matt will tell you, look, this is what he wanted to do. And then I was there to be able to support it. Really, really fucking cool. And then Ethan just got to follow in those footsteps and watch Jackson go through all that. So he knew the process that it was going to take. And again, not everybody's process is the same. And so, again, like for me is way different than, say, a Ken Griffey Jr., who got to grow up with the father of a big leaguer and on and on and on and on. Well, the more you look at this stuff, though, I mean, this year's class is basically as loaded as I've seen in a long time. And I say that loaded like with connections to fathers or relatives who had played in the big leagues. Here are some of the things, and I'll just kind of get into this article here. Let's see. Ken Griffey, let's start. And obviously Bobby Witt Jr. too. And Will was talking about Bobby Witt Sr., how great of a dude that he was. So they're talking about the holidays, extensively in the article. And then they go to the number 5 prospect is Eli Willits, a shortstop from Fort Cobb Broxton High School in Oklahoma, whose father is Reggie Willits, who was an Angels outfielder from 2006 to 2011. 2 uncles of Quentin Young, the number 37 prospect. Quentin Young's from Oaks Christian. Obviously, Uncle Dimitri and Delman are certainly proud. You got Cade Obermuller, a left-handed pitcher from University of Iowa. He's the number 53 prospect. His dad is Wes Obermuller, who was a second-round pick out of Iowa in 1999 and pitched in 5 different MLB seasons. Dodgers coach Dino Ebel made it to AAA as a player, is regarded as one of baseball's best at third base coaches. His oldest son, Brady, is a shortstop from that Corona High team, the infamous Corona High team, who potentially could have 4 first-round draft picks. He's the number 64 prospect and should be available to the Dodgers, who have the number 40 and 41 overall picks. The latter from the Gavin Lux trade to the Cincinnati Reds. Brady will play for College World Series champion LSU if he is not drafted high enough for his liking. A player whose rivals the Harrisons for MLB family ties is Cam Leiter, a right-handed pitcher from Florida State. He's the number 114 prospect. His uncles, obviously, Mark and Al Leiter. Al, who I worked with at MLB Network. Jack Leiter, who is Al's son in the big leagues with the Rangers. So this just goes on and on and on. Oh, by the way, his cousins are Jack and Mark Leiter Jr. I forgot about Mark Leiter Jr. because both those guys in the big leagues. How about Jaden Stroman, the son of 11-year MLB veteran pitcher Marcus Stroman? All I could think is, how old was Marcus Stroman when he had Jaden? I mean, Marcus is still pitching. Crazy. It said he's taken a different path than his dad, emerging as a number 130 prospect as an outfielder after playing at 3 different high schools. Draft eligible players, of course, Marcus Stroman went to Duke. Draft eligible players not ranked among the top 200 whose fathers were MLB stars include Caden Kent, Jeff Kent's kid, Brady Council, who's Craig Council's kid, Max McGuire, Mark's kid, Manny Ramirez Jr., that kid can swing the fucking bat, and Carson Sabathia, who is Cece's son. I know he's been in it and going at it for a long time. So Kent, left-hand hitting infielder from Texas A&M, whose dad, Jeff Kent, was a power hitting second baseman with the Dodgers and Giants for 17 years. Council's dad, Craig, played for 16 years and now the manager of the Cubs. McGuire's dad needs no introduction, 573 homers. Manny Ramirez, 555 homers. And then, of course, CC Sabathia, who will be inducted in the Hall of Fame here shortly. So there it is. Draft coming up. I'm going to do something with the 108 performance guys, I believe, on Sunday. They have 6 kids who potentially could go in the first round of the draft. They asked me to go on the podcast that they're going to be hosting, I think, a live podcast actually during the draft and kind of analyze some of the kids and what they got going. But they certainly have put together a pretty solid formula. Yeah, Manny Ramirez Jr. What's up, Crudelli? Randy, buenos dias to each and every one of you. All right, everyone have a fantastic weekend. Daily Hustle back at you. Look for coverage on Sunday, draft coverage. We're going to do something. So even if I go live with those guys, I'd go live on No Filter. At least for the first round of this thing. I think it's fascinating. I do like that Major League Baseball, I think now at this point, has done a lot better job of promoting their draft. I mean, back in the day. So 1994, I got drafted out of St. Francis High School. 38th round by the Los Angeles Dodgers. You want to know how and when I found out? Check this shit out. So I got a call from the Dodgers scout. I don't know, what, the second, third day of the draft, whatever it was. And he's like, Burnsy, we took you. 38th round. But it was kind of like, he's kind of mumble jumbled. I wasn't sure if it was a 28th round, the 38th round, or the 48th round. And back then, they'd have like 60 rounds. I mean, just keep going until you were done drafting. So it wasn't until Baseball America came out like 2 weeks later that they had the whole draft list. And I opened it up and found out, okay, it was the 38th round. And that's what I thought it was. I wasn't positive. But then the next time around, I went to UCLA. Well, first of all, this is what the Dodgers offered me. And it's a great story because I caught my senior year of high school and really didn't have a position. I could play everything, jack of all trades, master of none type of thing. I was fine. But I caught my senior year because we lost our catcher to Westminster Christian out in Florida. He'd gotten recruited to go out there. He's a stud. And so I ended up taking over the catching duties basically because I would play right field. I played third base. I played second. I played short. Like I was just kind of a plug and play guy. And then Chris Bradford came to me and he's like, yo, you think you can catch? I said, yeah, fuck yeah, let's go. And sure enough, I caught my entire senior year. And then when I got drafted in that Baseball America, when it says Byrnes, Eric Byrnes, St. Francis High School, Mountain View, California, 38th round, position, center field. So when you know. The scouts don't fucking miss. They looked exactly at me as an athlete, as a baseball player, like, dude, this dude's an outfielder. So I thought that was interesting. And then went to UCLA instead. Got so there was never an official offer from the Dodgers. It was, they want to do a draft and follow, basically, which would have had me go to Kenyatta College, and then they would have tried to sign me before the draft that next year. Real interesting. I actually kind of like it. I don't know why they even got rid of that because it gives the players more options, right? And so if you don't go to a 4-year school, go to a junior college, able to develop, lets the team scout you further and further. And then look, if you're going to get, say be a first rounder, they can go ahead and try to offer you first round money before that draft, or you just go back in the draft one way or another. The other thing was I could have gone to Billings, Montana. There was never an official dollar amount, but it was like, okay, you go to Billings or you go to Kenyatta College. And it was going to be Kenyatta, but I'm sitting there the whole time. I'm like, I got a fucking scholarship to UCLA. Why would I not do that? So obviously, end up going to UCLA. You're not draft eligible for another 3 years, though. And then it was 3 years later when I got drafted by the Astros in the 4th round. They gave all their money to their first round pick that year, so they didn't sign their 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. Gerald Laird was another one of the guys they didn't sign. I think he was their 2nd or 3rd rounder. I was their 4th rounder. And then the guy they did get, though, damn near Hall of Famer, Lance fucking Berkman. So you could make the argument for the Astros that they did the right thing. And then I was drafted again my senior year. Had a rough first half of the season at UCLA. I say rough. I was like 291 home run. Then hit 400 with 14 home runs in the second half of the season. So caught fire. But by then, most of the scouts who had watched early in the year, they usually watch the bigger schools earlier in the year. I honestly had passed on me or whatever else, but they just, wasn't there. So got drafted the 8th round, fell 4 rounds. I didn't really give a fuck. My whole mentality was, as soon as I get in the system, it's on. And I don't care if I 4th rounder or a 64th rounder. When I get into the system and get playing baseball, this is happening. And basically hit my way into the big leagues in 2 years. So there it is. Everyone have a fantastic weekend. And we will see you on either Sunday or back with the Daily Hustle on Monday. That's it. See ya!